Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into the 8th Autumn 2024 update from GavsWeatherVids. So here we go again, it's time to bring you yet more autumn data. We're up to update number 8 out of 9, there's only one more to go, and then we'll be releasing the GavsWeatherVids autumn forecast 2 weeks today on the 25th of August, and this is going to be our ENSO / La Nina special, and I shall get out of that for you in a moment. Just to say that first, the video release sales our 6 AM UK weather forecast will be live, hopefully, anyway, if the voice holds out. We'll be live at 6 PM. We'll contain a 14-day and will include some long range in that as well, as it is a Sunday live stream, of course it is. So that's to come later on today, all being well. I'm not counting my chickens until they're hatched. But hopefully I'll see you all at 6. Thank you so much to Richard for our amazing autumn updates gift. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much to the amazing Richard Short for our gift. And thank you so much to Shryan as well. Thank you so much to Shryan Bruin for sorting out all of the years for us that we're going to be looking at in this autumn update. Right, well, let's crack on. As I say, it's going to be an ENSO special. So, of course, ENSO is the cyclical warming and cooling of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. This is how we're currently looking as of the 9th of August 2024. This is where we're looking just here from Peru over to Indonesia across the equatorial Pacific Ocean. And the blue colours there, they are colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies, potentially the signal of La Nina. We have seen a little bit of development from the central region over the past week or two. However, this is still a very, 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 very slow and late starting La Nina if it does actually get itself together. Let's zoom in a little bit if we can. Maybe we can't. But anyway, you can see we have got some colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies here off the South American coast, particularly down towards Chile. That can sometimes be a precursor to a La Nina getting going. So we might end up in the end around week La Nina with this. But as I say, it's a very slow and late starting event. This, I think, is looking subsurface wise. So if this from the ENSO PDF, by the way, CPC, MCP, NOAA, all combined. So this, you have to think like this is the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here. We have got Peru just there, and Indonesia will be through there. Now, these are blue colours here. These are colder than average subsurface temperature anomalies at depth underneath the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, between, well, like the surface and going down to about 200 metres. So there is a body of cold and average subsurface temperature anomalies in the depths of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, potentially wanting to rise up to the surface and deliver us into a La Nina. However, at this point of a developing event, you'll probably expect that area to be wider and more expansive underneath the surface of the equatorial Pacific, and you will probably expect the temperatures at their core, you know, the cold average subsurface temperature anomalies at their core to be rather more intense than this is shown, and at a greater depth as well. So it's kind of supporting a La Nina, but it is a little bit, you know, a little bit of a puzzle what's going on. This is the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index. Now, this is measuring atmospheric pressure between Darwin and Tahiti when the SOI is in a positive phase, so the atmospheric setup will be reflective of La Nina. When the SOI is in a negative phase, the atmospheric setup will be reflective of El Nino. So if we're going into a La Nina, you expect positivity of the SOI to be gathering pace. You expect the atmospheric setup to be coupling with the ocean, you know, to produce the La Nina. What we're actually seeing is like many days coming out negative, actually. So, for example, 10th of August came out minus 16.87. 9th of August came out minus 21.12. Got the 8th of August at minus 7.77. 1st of August, minus 19, 31st of July, minus 21, 30th of July, minus 23, and so on it goes. It's been a little while since it's had strong positivity of the SOI. We've managed to do that on the 25th and the 26th of July. But to be honest, the atmospheric setup within the southern Pacific Ocean seems to be more towards El Nino, if anything. We see this from the graph here, showing that the SOI 30-day average is actually in quite a strongly negative sort of territory down here, between around -8 and -10. That shows that the atmospheric setup in the Southern Ocean is much, much more towards El Nino than it is towards La Nina, which is probably why the La Nina has struggled to get going with the atmosphere fighting against the ocean. You know, we're just stalling the event, and it's struggling to develop. Now, we may eventually get there. CFSB2 still wants to take us down into a La Nina, and, you know, like moderate La Nina, more or less, as well. Temperature is on the side, dates in monthly periods on the bottom. So we can see from black dash line, we're going down to about 1.5 degrees below average, you know, in terms of the sea surface temperature, sometime around November and December there, if the forecast is correct. Now, surface is normally pretty good with the direction of travel. It often does overdo it. So in the end, we might end up doing something a little bit like that, which takes us down into like a weak landing. That black dash line probably pull up in the end, but we may still get to landing it. However, other models are sort of not convinced. This is the ECM WF from Copernicus. This really is around ENSO neutral. I think probably slightly on the cold side of ENSO neutral, but struggling to go down to that sort of 1.5 degrees below average threshold to get La Nina designated. Keep in mind, but you know, there is strict criteria to get these events designated. So La Nina has to go down to 1.5 degrees below average. Let's look at this as Cold and Warm episodes by season, actually, to explain this. So this is measured over tri-monthly periods, and to get a La Nina designated, we really have to go down to like 1.5 we have to go down to half degree, I should say, or more below average, but run it over 5 tri-monthly periods. That could always be, you know, a little bit of a trick to be able to do that. So this is how we're currently set up. Of course, we started in 2024 with El Nino, and quite a strong El Nino as well, with those red numbers. We went back to black for the tri-monthly period of April, May, and June, which came out at 0.4 degrees above average. But most recent tri-monthly period is May, June, July. That came out at 0.2 degrees above average, so still slightly above average for the central portion of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. I mean, we may eventually get there, but we've got to fill up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tri-monthly periods. I think these two, you know, probably we won't be able to fill those up to get to half a degree below average. So it'll be like this tri-monthly period at the earliest, I think, but we get our first number coming in that is like half a degree below average. That's August, September, October. And then we're going to run that over another subsequent sort of 5 tri-monthly periods. So, you know, we may technically not get a La Nina designated if like ECM is right anyway, because that is very much towards ENSO neutral on the but on the cool side of ENSO neutral, but struggling to get down to that half degree threshold below average. This is the JMA, also from the Copernicus suite. It's a little bit more favourable towards like a weak cladding. You're just about getting the ensemble plume into that half a degree below average threshold, but we need to see it. You know, over 5 tri-monthly periods. And this is the UK Met. Now, this one's a little bit more towards La Nina. So, notice most of the red lines are under ENSO neutral, importantly. That's 1 degree below average. And certainly most of the ensemble plume in the UK Met going down to that threshold. In fact, I think the UK Met is closer to the CFS in terms of almost getting perhaps to moderate levels with the La Nina, like a weak to borderline moderate La Nina. So it's a bit of a puzzle, this, bit of a poser, and it is, you know, causing scratching of heads and whatnot. What we can say, I think, is due to how late this is getting going, we are probably only going to see a weak landing. If we do see a weak landing, and it is likely to be a late starter as well. It will definitely be a late starter and likely to be weak. So we're going to first of all look at autumn's coinciding, I should say, with late starting weak landing. And one of those that did that was the autumn of 1950, with lots of low pressure in the North Atlantic into Western Europe. That's just a very wet autumn there that we have in 1950. I think one of the wettest autumns on record. Could be wrong about that. We also have another late starting weak landing autumn in 1983. After the big 82-83 El Nino, of course, Super Nino. This one is a mild and dryish autumn. It does have a wet September, but October and November are drier and pretty mild as well. Low pressure up towards the northeast, high pressure through the west. You can see the wind direction will be coming up from like a southwesterly direction. And then another late starting weak landing year that Shrine picked out for us is 1995. So this is a warm autumn, though it does have northern blocking in the North Atlantic up towards Greenland and low pressure out in the Atlantic, bring up like a southerly flow. Now this has a wet September following a very hot, dry sort of drought summer, the summer of 1995. It broke in September and we had quite a wet month, especially in the south and in the east. Then it has a really warm and dry October in 1995, and then November is mild and wet with a couple of cold snaps, but they didn't last very long. Overall, a very warm autumn in 95 with a lot of intramonth variation. And the last one we got to go at for late starting weak landing, which tells you how unusual current circumstances are. The last we've got to go at is 2017. And this one has lower pressure way to the east, higher pressure is out in the Atlantic, and winds are coming in from like a northwesterly direction. So that's a rather wetter September in 2017, which was a bit of a turn up for the books, given all of the warm Septembers we'd had, running up to that. Has quite a cool wet September. Quite a warm October as well. Get the remains of Hurricane Ophelia. So you remember that. Turn the sky a Martian orange colour. And then November 2017 has a few cold snaps. It's a rather cooler but quite unsettled month. So putting all of that together, this is how all September's combined looking, with late starting weak landing as very unsettled signal, deep low pressure over the west of Europe. So a really, really wet signal there for the September. Bear in mind, it's only 4 of them, but what September's there are. In fact, all 4 of them are wet. So 1950, 1983, 1995, and 2017, maybe all wet Septembers that we had. Then all Octobers combined, much more anticyclonic, the trough lifting out away to the north, and the ridge, the heights essentially rising to the south. Jet stream is going north as well. So a drier, warmer signal as we go into the Octobers there. And then all Novembers combined with a late starting weak landing year looks like this. A ridge in the North Atlantic, while there's a trough across northern, central and eastern parts of Europe. That's a cold signal for northern Eastern Europe, by the way. That would deliver a real blast of winter for much of northern Eastern Europe. We're kind of on the periphery of that, but you've got a bit of cold snap potential coming through there. Potentially a little bit of cold snap potential, but probably a dryish and relatively mildish month overall. And then this is how all autumns combined are looking, with late starting weak La Ninas, and we have high pressure down towards Spain and Portugal, low pressure is around Scandinavia, and we bring the wind in off the Atlantic from like a westerly type direction there. So every month is different though. Definitely, the trough comes in much more in September, of course. Sorry, and the ridge is much more towards October and November. Now, what about if we don't ever quite make it to La Nina? What about if we don't ever have a La Nina officially designated, and so we end up just on the cool side of ENSO neutral. Well, there are some autumns that do that, and so that is the second analog set that we're going to look at right now. So all of these are ENSO neutral, but on the cool or Ningya side. And the first autumn is 1959, with high pressure away to the north and northeast, and winds coming in from an easterly direction. Very extended summer in 1959. It begins in the spring, it goes on into September and October. It's not till late October that the high pressure finally breaks, and then we do have quite a mild but wet November. Another autumn that was on the cool side of ENSO neutral was 1961. This one much more unsettled, with plenty of low pressure in the Atlantic. That's just a mild and wet autumn. I think has a really warm September. We've got the autumn of 1962, which is a cold and dry autumn on the neutral, on the cool side of ENSO neutral. So high pressure way to the northeast, winds regularly coming in like a north or northeasterly direction. That's quite a dry but chilly autumn, with early frost and even some early snowfalls in November of 1962. We've got autumn 1978, again on the cool side, or the Ningya side of ENSO neutral, with low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. It's a warm and very, very dry autumn until the last week of November. The ridge collapses then, and it starts to turn much colder and a lot more unsettled as well. We've got 1981. The autumn of 1981 is also on the cool side of ENSO neutral. It's a very wet autumn, wet September, wet in October and November as well. Often quite mild, but does have a colder snap in October of 81. A lot of tornadic activity, a lot of tornado activity in November 1981, interestingly. 1989 is a bit like 1959, really. Very extended summer, starts with spring, still going on into the autumn. And so this is a dry and warm autumn, especially so through September and into October. 1996 is much more unsettled, with low pressure in much of northern West Europe, high pressure out in the Atlantic. This has a dry but not overly warm September, high pressure towards Scandinavia. Then it has a mild and relatively mixed October, and then we have a much colder and at times actually quite wintry November in 1996. 2001 is another autumn that is on the cool side of ENSO neutral. So this one, the analog, has high pressure out to the west. It doesn't tell you a great deal about this autumn. Has a relatively mixed and quite cool September. Then the warmest October on record, I think, is still 2001 for CT, and then a few cold snaps coming and going in November. Overall, a very variable autumn, that one. And the final autumn, so it's been a while since we've done this. If we do, this is what we have for this autumn rather than a week landing. The final autumn that is on the cool side of ENSO neutral is 2013, and that one with higher pressure just out in the Atlantic. Again, rather mixed, rather variable. September, about average temperature-wise, slightly on the mixed side. October, again, relatively nondescript, but I think there's a storm, is it St. Jude's storm, at the end of October 2013, and then we gradually start going into a stormier pattern through November of 2013. Putting all of that together, this is how all Septembers combined are looking when we have ENSO neutral on the cool or La Nina side. Quite unusual and strange anomaly. Low pressure, what am I doing? Low pressure is away to the east and to the northeast and out in the Atlantic. Could there be some sort of ridge through there in a lot of these Septembers? Maybe, but then again, we have got some very wet Septembers in the mix as well, such as 1981. For example, but overall perhaps a little bit more towards higher pressure with these Septembers, particularly compared to the first set anyway. All October combined though does have a stronger high pressure anticyclonic influence, with a ridge building to our south, low pressure way to the northwest. So it's just a relatively mild and dryish signal for the Octobers. And then all Novembers combined also with an anticyclonic signal, though this time The high pressure tends to reside more in the middle of the Atlantic and probably favours like a relatively mild westerly flow, so mild and dry perhaps favoured in a lot of those Novembers. Bear in mind there will be years that deviated. 1962, for example, had quite like cold snaps in November. And then this is how all autumns combined are looking, where we're on the cool side of ENSO neutral, and it favours like an anticyclonic signal, really higher pressure over and slightly to the west of the country, with low pressure away to the north. A relatively dry and mild signal potentially favoured there. You'll notice there are one or two quite interesting winters, but would be included if we followed this through to the winter. Example 62, 63, 78, 79, 81, 80. I'm not going there yet. When we get into the winter updates, then we can start going there, but not yet. Not yet. Okay, we're done. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for doing that. Drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos and content. Don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids and the long range epic content that we're doing here on the channel, unique content, and we thank you so much everybody for doing that. So quite an interesting update. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if we're live at 6 o'clock, which I think we will be, then you can fire away and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have about that. About this. Just to say, next week's autumn update will be the final autumn update, and then the following week, which is Sunday the 25th of August, we will be releasing the GavsWeatherVids autumn forecast. So we are virtually at the end now of the journey. How exciting! The long range forecast is imminent. Well, you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully I'll see you a little bit later on for the live stream. But for this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.